Okay, here we go. Stand by. 3, 2, 1, action.
Assume nothing.
Brash, bald-faced blasphemy.
Question everything.
I find it extremely hard to imagine.
Open your eyes.
It is quite all right to be an atheist.
The fastest growing group of people in the country has been measured as being those who have no belief or who are atheists.
You don't have to be apologetic or quiet about it.
Challenge the opposition.
You see religion on 100 fronts losing the argument.
And start thinking. This is the Thinking Atheist Worldwide.
Before I introduce my special guest for just a moment, I want to take you back in time, okay? Go with me way back to a few decades ago. Now, I'm pushing 43, and I'm pushing it kind of hard. So those of you who graduated back in the 80s will no doubt smile with recognition here. Now, those who were born later, we're going to wonder how we ever escaped the Dark Ages. But remember with me, okay? Go back with me, a time when information was much, much harder to come by. And again, for my younger audience, this is going to seem like a journey to the 7th level of hell. But hang with me, okay? Now, back in the day, if you wanted to know, say, the weather forecast, you either caught the local weathercast on one of 3, count them, 3 network television stations at 6:15 p.m., or if you missed that, you had to wait 4 more hours for the next local weathercast at 10:15 p.m. Now, the idea of getting real-time, full-motion color radar on your smartphone, not so much. If you wanted to catch a movie, all right, to get movie times, you got in your car, drove to the convenience store or wherever. You paid like 25 or 50 cents. You drove home. You scanned the entertainment section. And if you didn't recognize the address, you couldn't GPS it. So you simply headed out to the nearest landmark. You know, well, I know the theater is near here. It's right near the Safeway. You drove around your neighborhood going, I just know it was here. Probably late for the movie. You miss all the previews. You want to see a video debate by Christopher Hitchens or Sam Harris or Daniel Dennett? Well, good luck finding that sucker on VHS tape somewhere. And if you do find it, you're probably mail ordering it from a university, $20, right, plus shipping and handling. You got to wait 7 to 10 days for it to arrive, and then you're chained to the video deck, mashing the rewind and the fast forward buttons, you know, to review all the relevant stuff, the stuff you're trying to take notes on. Anybody remember the old VHS decks that actually had a big chute that would pop out of the top, just huge buttons on it? That's back when we had the whole beta VHS debate. Want to hear Richard Dawkins' audiobook? Not a problem. Probably find it on, say, half a dozen cassette tapes that if your car stereo doesn't eat them, they already sound funny because you left them on the car dash in the month of August. And now they all sound a little bit like this. Science and information, well, students had their textbooks, but there was no Google. No online databases, no nothing. So if you wanted to research anything about human cells or animal species or disease or genetic mutation or the solar system or whatever, you got back in the car and you drove to the downtown library, not the regional, those little bitty regional libraries. Nah, they never had the stuff. You had to go all the way down to the big one. You paid at a parking meter. You went inside. You begged for help from a librarian because you still didn't understand the Dewey Decimal System. And you looked up articles on an amazing piece of technology called microfiche. And you flipped frantically through books to find information that today we can find in seconds by keyword. You stood in line at a big Xerox machine to make copies of all the relevant pages, and they're highlighting, and you're drawing in there with your ink pen and your pencil, and you're making notes and trying to keep it together. And then you scoop up the entire stack of books and papers. You go back to the car. You drive home. You spread everything out on the kitchen table, and then you cuss out loud because you missed an important chapter, and now you got to drive all the way back down to the library before you're tested. Talk radio, okay, a few AM channels with talk hosts, and only by a select few broadcasters. Video, you had to have tens of thousands of dollars, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars, of cameras and beta decks and audio mixers and a host of wires and cables and connections and monitors and you name it. Only 3 TV channels, so good luck getting your personal message out there. If you make a video, we'll probably never see the light of day. It's not like today where at this very moment, 4 YouTube broadcasters are doing a show for thousands of people over a real-time internet feed originating from our homes. Now, I don't think it's accurate to say that back then information was held hostage. I mean, that probably always happened somewhere in some form. I'm just saying it was just much harder to get the information back then. And here we are today in the year 2011, the internet, YouTube, the podcast, the blog, the Facebook page, the entire online phenomenon has changed the game. It's allowed everyday people who have something to say to be heard, for better or for worse. It's allowed information that was once only available by thumbing through these huge libraries of your parents' Encyclopedia Britannica. You simply locate and log online, find it in mere seconds. The YouTube generation has turned the tables on how communication and ideas are presented out there, how they're received, how they're discussed. My favorite part is it's given the tools for real change, cultural change, to grassroots movements, instigated and implemented by everyday, regular folks. And I have three such people as my special guests today. And we're going to talk about YouTube and how the internet has changed the game, their own stories, and, of course, your letters and your calls. My first guest, you know him as Dark Matter 2525, a lifelong skeptic. Real name is John. He said he's always had a natural curiosity even at an early age. Even as a child, he said he found it difficult to believe anything that couldn't be proven with a chain of evidence. As early as the second grade, John found himself telling the other kids that God was just one of those fantasy stories that your parents told you. And the kids usually replied he was going straight to hell. How many times have we been down that road with our religious peeps? Dark Matter has always been passionate about refuting religion because religion, in his opinion, hinders progress and truth. It keeps people in the dark. It helps unscrupulous leaders manipulate the masses more easily. In his opinion, religion devalues this life in favor of a fictitious afterlife, which he says is heartbreaking and dangerous. After all, why are we going to respect this temporary world when we're destined to perish? Go to another one. John believes this is your only life. It is to be lived to the fullest, and we must leave the world a better place for those who come after us, because these are not the end times. In his opinion, he says this is just the beginning. Dark Matter 2525. John, are you with me?
Yes, thank you for having me.
I'm glad you're part of the podcast. Tell me very quickly, you were never a believer in any way? Were your parents religious?
No, I was never a true believer. I considered myself agnostic for the longest time. When I say that, I'm just completely unsure of what to believe. And now I'm more atheistic than ever, just because I've looked into it. You know, I've done a lot of studying. I've read the Bible many times, different versions. I've read a lot of apologist literature. I don't read atheist literature. I stick with apologist stuff. I want to be convinced. I want to be corrected. And I find that, you know, that's the only way you could truly be intellectually honest. Look at the other side, see what they have to say, investigate what their claims. And the reason I'm more atheistic than ever is because I've done just that. And I've found that their credibility is just shot with me because they're always wrong. I always find that they're wrong.
I was asked the other day why I entertain and often highlight arguments from the religious on my own page. They say, why are you giving them audience? Why are you highlighting them? And my argument is, quite frankly, the more I hear these nonsensical arguments, the more it reminds me that, wow, you know, I'm glad I chose this path that I'm on, because the more I hear the opposing point of view, the more it reinforces my own. Is that the argument you're making?
Yeah. The interesting thing is my brother is my polar opposite. I mean, we grew up in the same house. He became extremely religious, and I went the exact opposite direction. We both grew up under the same circumstances. Our parents were pretty much secular people. I mean, I asked my dad about God, and he would say, you know, I don't know. My dad was the most honest person I knew. He would tell you things. He would be brutally honest. He would be inappropriately honest at times, and he never lied. And that's the most honest thing you can say is, you know, I don't know. And my mom, she considers herself a Christian nowadays, but she never really talks about it. So we grew up under those equal circumstances, and we went in completely opposite directions. And in fact, my brother is one of the main reasons my channel exists is because I saw what it did to him. I saw how it changed him, and I didn't like that. I didn't like what it did to him. It made him kind of obsessed and sanctimonious, and it was difficult.
Can I, very quickly, for those who are just now being introduced to you, and I do encourage people who are listening to explore further the channels of the guests that I have today, but can you kind of in a nutshell describe what your YouTube channel is? What's the theme? What's the style? What do you do?
Sure. I do cartoons. I make, like if you've ever heard of Non-Stamp Collector, he was a big influence when I started doing cartoons. And I do these animations with a program called Anime Studio Debut 7. And they're very simple. And I try to put a comedic spin on everything. I do a couple of serious videos, but the vast majority of my stuff is all comedy.
What is the exact name of the channel if somebody was typing it into the YouTube search engine? Just your name?
Yeah, Dark Matter 2525.
All right, John, if I may, I'm just going to refer to you as Dark Matter here for the rest of the podcast.
Sure.
Very quickly, if I may move to my second guest, and I'll come right back to you, sir. Mm-hmm. Bionic Dance. Everyone's got an opinion about Bionic Dance. YouTube's rabid and screaming lesbian atheist. This is in the description provided to me. She's also a sci-fi nut. She prefers to popularize atheism by taking a more academic approach. Her videos are more MTV than PBS. Bionic Dance is trained in 3D animation. In fact, you can see lots of visual tricks and special effects in her video style. Her upbringing included a kind of a whirlwind tour of spirituality. And her family never really settled on a specific faith, so the resulting exposure to multiple religions gave her the idea that religion was rather like television. There's tons of stations, easy to change, most are crap. What a great analogy. It only took the mistreatment of those not in their faiths to sour Kate on religion altogether. Making videos promoting atheism was a natural progression. You know her as Bionic Dance. Can you hear me?
I can. How's it going?
Talk to me. You started YouTubing when?
About 2 years ago. I think it was December 23rd of 2008.
And you just what? You just got there was such a fire in your belly, you thought, I got to get it out? What prompted you to start the whole Bionic Dance phenomena?
Well, part of it was just that the arguments I saw people making were often incomplete or not expressed the way I'd like to see them, and I was like, I can do better. And to try and be unique, I decided I'd come up with an animated character and present my arguments through this 3D animated character. Unfortunately, that turned out to be a lot of work. I could get out a video a week tops. So since then, I've reverted to just being on camera myself.
Do you find that people don't often realize how much time that type of production takes? Because many people will say, well, they're just moving pictures, right? And you have to explain to them that there's a lot of work involved, huh?
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, the most time-consuming part of it is just animating the lip sync. I mean, having a character speaking into the camera, you have to make the mouth make the shape of every syllable in that word that they're speaking, for every word, for every sentence, for the whole video. I mean, 3 minutes of video can take you, like tens of hours, dozens of hours to animate.
Tell me about, what's your style? I mean, you seem kind of in your face. You seem like you walk out and you're kind of ready for a fight. Is that inaccurate? Do you go out, do you walk in a room and say, come on, test me?
No, that's actually pretty accurate. I mean, the way I see it, if people are not challenging your ideas, all you're doing is mental masturbation. And so I want to be challenged. I want to challenge other people. How else are we ever going to learn if there isn't conflict that gets resolved?
Mental masturbation. I'm just making a little note there. I'm going to make a little note. you're full of these wonderful little pop culture references that I haven't heard much of before. Talk to me about the response you get. Is it love? Is it hate? Is it both?
It's definitely both. I mean, there are some people who have dedicated themselves to my channel, which is a little flattering and a little scary at times. I have actually had to put down more than one cult of bionic dance. By the same token, there are some people out there who just, they hate me as much as you can possibly hate a person. I don't know, it's mixed, but it's always fun.
If I can, real fast, I'm going to bring evidence on. Then I'd like to group everybody together, and I just want to have a free-for-all because I've got some questions for all of you, and I think having all of you interact together would be a great idea. Can you hang on for me just a second?
Sure.
My final guest, evidence, and it's an odd spelling. In fact, I'll want to spell it for you in a second. If you don't know who he is and you're looking it up on YouTube and you just type in the word evidence, he has some 3s in there. So get a pen or pencil ready, and I'll make sure I get that to you. His name is Chris. Some of his first memories as a 5-year-old in the Pentecostal Christian church, forming a relationship with God, learning more about God's will, spreading the Christian message, and seeking the truth rapidly became the most important goal of his life. At the age of 21, Chris had an email conversation with a professor that that he had challenged to a debate. Throughout this conversation, Chris realized his search for truth had slowly been deteriorating his faith throughout his entire Christian life. This realization, along with the philosophical, psychological, and literary evidence presented by the professor, destroyed his faith. He then spent the next 6 years honing his understanding of religion and reality, moving from pantheism to strictly atheism to secular humanism. Chris is currently presenting his story as a series on YouTube while working on his PhD in computer science. I feel stupid just being in the room with Chris. It's just one of those things. Chris, can you hear me? Are you on the line?
Yeah, I'm here.
Fine. Yeah, I'm just a redneck with a microphone and flashy toys. You're getting a freaking PhD.
Oh, no, come on. Yeah, I've seen your videos. I know you're smarter than that.
Talk to me about our backgrounds are a little bit similar. You were raised in the cradle of the church. Were your parents deeply religious? Did they have you in church every Sunday or what?
Yeah, absolutely. Deeply religious. It was and is still the most important thing in their lives.
So as you have stepped out vocally in opposition to that faith, what's been the repercussions in your family life, may I ask?
Well, I wasn't always quite this level of an activist. It started small, of course, because I was just figuring things out myself. I wasn't completely sure, and that shows in my series. I was still figuring things out. It didn't really come up ever. I just kind of hid it until, one afternoon my dad calls me and I tell him I'm having trouble with something in school and, I'm kind of worried about it, but I think he'll be all right. He's like, well, did you pray? And I'm like, no. He's like, well, do you still pray? I was like, no. Do you still believe in God? Well, no, I don't. I mean, because I am honest to the fault. So he kind of freaked out and kept calling me every Sunday for a couple, every 2 weeks, and we'd debate about it and be like, all right, yeah, I mean, if you want to talk about it, I'll talk about it. And eventually it just became something that we kind of don't talk about. When I won the Project Driven video contest, so I told them about that, and they were happy. My mom, I've been really impressed with how they've taken it. They're still very religious, but they also still very much love me and care about me, and we have a pretty good relationship, really.
They've managed to at least take some measure, if I read this right, a measure of pride in knowing that you've chosen your own path and you're living honestly, and they kind of went there with you. I mean, they may not agree, but it sounds to me like they're on your side.
Yeah, I mean, they're always, my dad's always trying to convince me to come back. He's like, I want to fight, but, here's, if you want to come back, God's waiting for you, things like that. But they at least support me personally. Yeah.
Let me bring my other guests back in, and I'd like to just speak with all of you with your permission, and let's just see what sticks to the wall here, okay? Bionic Dance and Dark Matter, along with Evidence, my special guest, and in just a few moments I am going to go to the phones and take some of your calls. I do have some email questions as well. How do you decide what material you're going to cover? I mean, is it because you're passionate about something? I'll start with you, Bionic Dance. I mean, how do you choose your subject? When you turn the mic on, you turn the camera on, you go for it. What determines what you're going to talk about?
Well, I mean, you pretty much nailed it. It's something about which I'm passionate. Oftentimes it's something that matters specifically to me. Maybe something or someone has managed to royally piss me off, and so I'll address that. Or maybe I'll look at something that some religious person has said and thought to myself, well, how do they actually reconcile that with reality? Or here's why that doesn't work in reality. Let me address that. And so then I write a script and make a video.
Kate, do you address the issues of homosexuality? I mean, as far as I know, you being a lesbian, do you actually tackle those, or are you strictly atheist in tackling religious issues?
Oh, no, I've talked about lesbianism. I've talked about homosexuality. I've talked about the religious objection to it more than once. But in all honesty, that's a much more minor focus of my channel. I have a tendency to go after religion a lot more.
John, Dark Matter, how do you determine what you're going to animate, produce a video on? I mean, what is it? Is it something that you've just been stewing on for a month and you think, I got to get this out, or what?
Oh, yeah. If it's constantly, going through my mind, and I know the only way to get it out of there is to share it. I know I have to speak up about it, and I have to do it in such a way that I find funny. If I laugh out loud at it, then I know, okay, I can do this. If I don't find it funny, if I don't laugh, if I'm, then I don't do it. I try to find a different way. And I try to take an angle I haven't heard before, and I try to make sure that it's a popular subject, things that theists bring up a lot, that they, maybe I can help other atheists come up with refutations, and one of the things that I think about too is, are people going to favorite this video? Is this just some mundane video that people are going to watch and click away from, or are they going to, favorite it? And that helps, I think, spread my, I think that has helped my channel rise very quickly.
Does humor help you, or do people think you're a lightweight? Because a lot of people don't respond to humor. They think, oh, you need to be more serious about this topic, but you purposefully go for the satire, for the comedy. What's your take?
Yeah, it does make more serious people not take you seriously. I mean, I have to deal with that. I have to deal with being a clown. That's the role that's the niche that I kind of fell into, the clown. But, that stuff gets attention too. And it gets a lot more attention than some of the serious stuff. So it's a kind of a sneaky way to get some serious points in and be popular simultaneously.
Where people may not open and read a textbook or read clinical information, they might read or receive the information in more story form. That's been my take. I think we have a responsibility to not just have information, but to present it in a compelling way so people aren't reaching for the stop or close window button whenever they start a video. Chris,
right,
otherwise known as Evidence, your take is a little more cerebral, at least on the pieces that I have seen. Talk to me about your video style. What's it like? What do you do?
Ever since I started the Deconversion series, it's basically been about showing the evolving story of how I became an atheist and what were the most important concepts that led up to that. I try to maintain empathy. I try to show how maybe I think the same way that some Christian or someone watching the show felt. Maybe they feel this way. Maybe they think this. I've met a lot of Christians who thought the things that I thought. So that's kind of the angle that I started with in the deconversion section, and now it's just kind of figuring things out. I do want to emphasize, I really think that a lot of different approaches are useful and helpful. Like I really enjoy Dark Matter and a lot of the comedy channels. They crack me up. I know it's not my style, but I really enjoy seeing their style out there. It all helps. It all hits religion from so many different angles. It shows how pervasive and useful these ideas are.
speaking with Dark Matter, Bionic Dance, and Evidence. I'm just going to throw this out for anybody. When you respond, if you would tell me who I'm listening to, because I have so many guests, that way the listeners aren't confused. Do you find that you have come to rely on your YouTube page for a sense of community? Do you find that you may have lost a sense of community in your own apostasy and your own rejection of religion in your circle, and you have come to sort of need the YouTube community to fill a void? Anybody speak to that?
Bionic Dance here, and yes and no. I sort of live in a part of the country that doesn't care that much about religion. I mean, I live in Seattle, and the vast majority of my friends are either atheists or just don't give a flying fornication about religion. It just doesn't seem to come up a lot. And so when I talk about my YouTube channel, generally speaking, my in-person friends are like, "Oh, that's nice, Kate, pat, but you're an internet, movie star or something." And I'm like, "Yeah, okay, fine." So if I want to talk about atheism or religion, I have to do it online. And so in that way, yes, I've come to rely on it as a community, and I've made some wonderful friends here. But at the same time, I do have an outside life, and it's just not related to religion.
Give a flying fornication. God. Either one of you guys want to speak to that? Do you? I mean, I'm guilty. I feel like I crave connection with my online community because it fills a gap. Because everyone in my personal circle, except for maybe two people, they're religious. Do you guys feel that, or what?
Well, and yeah, this is Dark Matter. I live in a rural area of Florida, and everybody around me is religious, and there's tons of billboards up by the side of the road, saying, talking about Christ, one of them next to an elementary school saying that an eternity in hell is a long time. I mean, and YouTube it's the only communication I have with people who don't believe in God, with people who think the way I think. And it's a great escape for me. I mean, if I'm in public where I am and I start to talk to someone about this stuff, you could sense there's a palpable fear. Like, oh my God, what's wrong with this person? They don't believe in God. It's like they didn't even know that was possible. Are they worshiping Satan?
Chris, do you have a take on it? Evidence? I mean,
Yeah.
Is it a coping mechanism for you? What?
Yeah, I mean, it's a really great way to connect with people. I mean, it's a very meaningful way for me to connect with people in my life, and hearing stories from people, how they can relate to it, or how I help them think better about atheists or atheism, or how I made them think better about Christians. I've had atheists tell me how, seeing the way that I thought as a Christian, they don't think that Christians are just plain idiots anymore. They can see how a reasonable person could believe this. So, yeah. As far as my public situation, it's interesting. I'm in a liberal city, but I'm in Kansas. So it's a little bit of a mix. I'll give a little plug here for the local atheist group. It's a society of open-minded atheists and agnostics. I hang out with these people a lot. They're great. So I can relate to people in person. They really like the channel. They talk to me about it. They like the videos. But then, once I walk out of that room, I'm in Kansas, and there are a lot of religious people here too. So, but in short, yeah, the channel is a great connection with society and people for me.
You bring up an interesting point. I'll just throw it out. Are religious people stupid? Anybody?
Oh, no. This is Dark Matter here. I don't think religious people are stupid at all. I just think that, different things different people find different things compelling and convincing, and some people are brought up with it, as a child, and they never really had a chance to question, and they got used to believing in these things. And there's a lot of people that compartmentalize their logic, and they won't apply their same reasoning skills to their beloved beliefs as they would to other activities, science. No, there's very intelligent theists out there, but there's a lot of dumb ones.
Bionic Dance, what's your take? You take a pretty hard line with people who adhere to religious beliefs. What's your take? Are they idiots or what?
Well, I agree with what Dark Matter said, that there's probably a lot of intelligent theists out there. But unfortunately, intelligence and gullibility don't necessarily, contradict each other. They don't necessarily fight each other. For example, I seem to remember Albert Einstein was very confused by a magician who had actually pulled a math trick on him rather than like hiding something up his sleeve. Very intelligent people can be fooled. So it may well be that they're not stupid, just gullible, but one way or another they are believing stuff they really ought not to. And I find it difficult not to call them stupid sometimes, but I have to freely admit that they're probably not.
Evidence?
I tend to think, just from my own experience, all I can talk about is what I experienced. So I was just very devout Christian, and I can tell you, I think the number one factor is insulation from evidence, and that's, it's kind of the inspiration for my channel name. I lived in a world where I just had not encountered the evidence for natural selection and how it worked, for the documentary hypothesis or any other kind of higher criticism. I did not know that there was so much out there against my faith, and I was insulated from it. I was surrounded by Christians. I read the Bible. I don't think that anti-religious or atheist material is very welcome on TV. I think it's censored, especially, or not censored, but just de-emphasized. We don't want to stir the pot here. At least it was back when I was a Christian. So I think the insulation is a big issue.
I'd never heard of Richard Dawkins until 2.5, 3 years ago. I didn't even know his name. I had no idea who he was. And I think I can relate to that. I was insulated for a long time. We were never trained to think critically, to go out and listen to the opposing argument. God was the beginning of the argument for us. I'd like to think I wasn't completely stupid, but I was naive. Anybody else? Can anybody else go there with me? You guys get that? No?
Yeah.
I was never raised in a faith, so I can't really relate. Not really.
How much of what you get on your YouTube pages is hate mail? Do you guys get anything that really spooks you or makes you crazy?
I got a death threat and just a few crazy things. But what I've noticed is that the more popular my channel gets, I've actually gotten less hate mail, because I don't know why. I have certain theories. Maybe they're intimidated. That I don't know. But that also worries me too, because I think am I not mattering? Do I not matter to these people anymore? I don't know.
They say where there's light, there is heat, and you guys have probably taken some heat. Bionic Dance. You get any hate mail? You get any people that just make you literally want to lock your door and double check it, or what?
Not really, no. I get a lot of haha, you're dumb. I get a lot of people telling me I'm ugly, but very
ugly.
It happens. But I've never gotten a death threat. I've never gotten a threat against my life, or limb, or whatever. I've never felt the need to lock my door. There was someone who tried to drop my docs once, but they managed to have a 7-year-old address. So,
that offends me. I had something similar happen. I don't want to make this about me, but I have a great example of what you're talking about. When someone can't address the substance of your argument, what they do is they throw out a personal insult. They bait you with something offensive. I had a theist on my homepage this morning, and I will quote what they said. They said, "The thinking faggot, your videos are not intellectual, and I lost brain cells every second I wasted watching your bullcrap videos." They didn't address the substance of my argument. They threw out a homophobic slur from a position of a supposed higher intellect, and then he misspelled the word faggot. You know? I mean, these people scare me. Chris, Evidence, do you ever get anything like that?
On occasion, I guess. I don't know. It just makes me laugh when I've gotten the faggot thing, too, though. It's really rare. Very rare. But, yeah, someone will be, this fag, he doesn't know what he's talking. And, like, it really just forfeits their credibility. Once you go there, once someone goes there, you know they don't have anything. But as for hate mail, yeah, I'm in concurrence with the other two. I haven't really gotten any hate mail. What I do get, I do get a lot of really nice messages saying, like, hey, I love it, I love what you're doing, and I really appreciate those. The only contrary, like, kind of messages I get are the theologians. Yeah, I listened to one of your podcasts before. I get the theologian, and they send me some message that's fucking 3 pages long, and I'm like, I'm not going to go through this. A personal message, really? You think I'm? Yeah, and so I get those, but those are actually rare too.
Some of the people on our comments pages really need a job, a hobby, a life purpose. I saw someone yesterday, there must have been 25 comments or responses to a thread, and there was going to be no resolution, but the vehement, non-stop barrage of comments over the course of an entire day really kind of freaked me out. Do any of you guys feed the trolls? Do you bother? Do you engage?
A couple times. I find it's best to just ignore them, and they'll get tired and eventually go away. And there's a few crazy ones that'll stick with you for one. I've got one that's been following me around for half a year now.
Some people thrive on, they look stupid, we'll just engage, and now they'll look even more stupid. I mean, Bionic Dance, do you engage or you ignore them?
It really depends on how they present themselves. I mean, there are some that you can't even tell they're trolls at first until they start posting ha-ha messages after like 5 or 6 exchanges. But the ones that are just out and out inflammatory, I'm like, I don't need you.
Chris, you want to chime in real fast?
I probably most comments like that I just let my subscribers handle it. But I'd say that I engage probably one theologian per video. And the reason I do that is, one, just to show that, I'm not just on here to receive praise. I'm willing to listen to criticism. Another reason is because I don't know if this is rational, but I tend to think it may be. I worry about getting too disconnected from the Christian background that I came from and losing the ability to empathize. And so I try to hear these people out and be like, okay, well, where are you coming from? You saying I didn't read Thomas Aquinas? Let's hear this out. And, I go read it, and yes, I mean, at least that guy, this guy, he was on the Spong video that I made, and, it ended up making him look really dumb because he was being really arrogant. He's like, oh, you haven't read these, and I'm like, okay, I'll go read it. Oh, I already knew all this, so you're a jackass. So.
Real fast, tell everybody how to spell Evidence so they can find your channel on YouTube. I neglected to do that earlier in the broadcast.
It's EVD3. Oh, wait, sorry, I can't even spell my own name. It's the word evidence. So the word evidence has 3 E's in it. If you type it out, evidence, replace those last 2 E's with 3's.
Real fast, I'm going to go to the phones. And let me ask our callers, if you would, let's keep it tight. Get your question out early. If you are addressing any guest specifically, please let me know. I'm going to try to get through as many of these as we can. My first call is Derek in Taiwan. You're on the Thinking Atheist podcast. Our special guest, Dark Matter, Bionic Dance, and Evidence. Well, what's your question?
Hey, can you hear me all right? I'm calling you through Skype.
No, you're doing good. What's going on?
Not too much. I just want to say I love your guys' show. I'm subscribed to all of you except Evidence, but right after this, I'm going to go check out his channel.
You picked out the subscriber, buddy. Well done. You have a question or comment for us?
Yeah, I got some comments. I just want to say what I think about YouTube and atheism. And in general, I think it's been a great thing for atheism to advance and get more ideas out there on the web. And for my situation, I've always been a skeptical thinker when I was a young, kid, and I never really believed in any religion or anything. And I eventually started dating this one girl in high school, and she was very religious, but the kind of religious type that doesn't really do all the things with her religion, just kind of like wants it for comfort, that kind of thing. So I started noticing some inconsistencies with her religion, but at that time I didn't really know a lot about my own, atheist beliefs. Well, not really beliefs, but, how to defend myself. But I just started asking her some questions, and she didn't know how to answer them, and she just fired back at me asking, well, why are you an atheist? And I actually didn't know how to answer them as well. So at that time, I started going on YouTube, and I started looking up some videos to try to get more information about it. And that's when I started this long period of time where I just started finding these videos that really helped me to get more confident about my beliefs. And through that, I also found some more famous people like Richard Dawkins, Sam Harris, and Christopher Hitchens. And then I went out and I got their books. And after I read them, I was pretty confident in what I believed, and I was able to share it with other people.
Derek, I'm glad you're out there. I appreciate the call very much. I got to move on, okay? Very quickly to my guests, tell me how YouTube has changed the game. I mean, the whole playing field is different today than it was 5, 10, 15 years ago. Anybody want to speak to that? Bionic Dance, you want to start us off?
Sure. Well, it sure does seem as if we've at least started to popularize atheism. I mean, a large part of the problem with it is that atheists had no way to connect to each other, and the Internet has definitely changed that. And it has also shown that, at least I've tried to show it with my videos and my video style, is that we're all not intellectual, we try to be intellectual, but we don't have the capital I intellectual thing going on. We're not all stuffed shirts working at universities, which is kind of the way it was presented to a lot of folks, if it wasn't presented as some sort of godless communist kind of thing. So we've really gotten atheism out there in a way for people to see, so that they can go, ordinary people are atheists, and they don't live these horrible, miserable lives, and you don't have to be some coffeehouse intellectual to be one. And I think that's really helping.
There is a mentality that says if you don't have a PhD or a seminary degree, you are not qualified to have these discussions, which is ludicrous, because if you believe that, it excludes billions of everyday people from truly knowing God or a lack of God. I mean, isn't our opinion as valuable as anybody else out there?
Yeah, I mean, especially with democracy. I mean, with a democratic process like this is evidence. Sorry, it's really important that it is talked about among everyday people. I think normal people. Yeah.
Of course, you've got you're working toward a PhD, so now you can look down your nose at the rest of us slobs down here.
Oh God, I really don't feel that way.
No, I get that about you. Look, let me tell you, I get one thing about all three of you that I really appreciate is that atheists we can be real snobs. I mean, the atheist community can be very, you all are deceived, everybody else is stupid. I mean, that stuff does happen. We don't like to admit it. But a lot of times atheists are not accessible, and I consider you guys, you're real people. You don't treat other people like statistics. You treat people like people. And I think that is so important if we're going to go out there and engage the culture, so that they don't see it as just some kind of an elitist, inaccessible snob who's looking down his, erudite nose at the rest of the world and saying, well, one day you'll be enlightened like me. Let's talk to Jackson in Alabama. You're on the Thinking Atheist podcast with Dark Matter, Bionic Dance, and Evidence. Good morning.
Hey, I'm actually a huge fan of Dark Matter 2525, and I've got a question for him. How do you get, all those people, for, some of your videos? You've got, Thunderfoot and ZOMG, it's whatever her username is, and how do you get all those people off for your videos?
Explain that to me. His videos are animated. Do you get their voices for the videos?
Yeah, I just have him send me the audio, And when I first started doing that, the first person I ever asked was Phil Helene, and he knew of me. He was subscribed to me, so I picked a guy that I really liked and who knew who I was. So I knew that he would be more likely to accept my offer. And once he did, I used that as an incentive for other popular people. I would tell them, hey, look, Phil Helene is on board. Could you possibly, give me some audio too? And, they would say, hey, Phil Helene, he's cool. So, yeah, sure, I'll be happy to. And that's how it worked out.
Do you find that the atheist community is eager to help each other?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we kind of feel like we're outnumbered and outgunned. So, yeah, we're always happy to help each other.
Jackson, anything else before I let you go?
Yes, I've got a comment on how atheism helps. I think the people who, are raving, like Kirk Cameron and Ray Comfort, you can't get anything to them, but I think YouTube atheism helps for the people who are, just on the fence, and it also helps the people who, who are open-minded religious people. They just, don't know the facts about, or they've never read the Bible. Just the people who don't know. I think it helps those people.
Thanks so much for the call out of Alabama. Sorry, I butchered the name of your state. I'm going to try to say your name. Is it Markel in South Carolina? Did I say your name correctly?
Close enough.
What is it?
It's Marquel.
Marquel.
Yeah.
Got it. What's going on?
No, I just wanted to say that I think the YouTube Atheist has done a lot for us, because a lot of people are from towns that's very religious, very isolated, and they have nobody. It's just basically they might be the only atheist they know. And I know for myself, for a long time here, I thought that I was about the only atheist in this area. Then I started watching YouTube, and I realized that I may be the only atheist in this area, but I'm definitely not the only atheist that's very outspoken about, certain things. And it brings a little comfort and a little encouragement to just keep doing what you're doing.
In South Carolina, and you know what, I'll bet, and I'd like my guest to speak to it, but I'll bet there are a lot more people who are skeptical than are publicly letting on, and maybe the YouTube phenomenon is starting to give them courage. Any one of my guests want to speak to that? Have you had encounters where someone said, I thought I was the only one, but seeing your video and community emboldened me to be more vocal, more active? Any of you guys want to speak to that?
Well, it hasn't happened specifically to me. I've had people thank me for putting my message out there, but no one said, specifically, hey, you gave me the courage to do blah. That really hasn't happened.
How about you guys?
I've had, this is evidence. I had to think about that. I don't know about giving the courage to come out. Maybe. I think I might have gotten a message like that. But I have had people say that the series kind of inspired them to tell their story. One guy in particular who I'll give a plug to, because I really enjoy the work he's doing, is Purple Fox. He's on my channel, under my list of other channels down in the lower left corner. He said that when he saw my series, it kind of gave him the inspiration to do his own series, and he has his own kind of style. He's incredibly empathetic. I really enjoy it. So, yeah, I've had people inspired, at least, by the channel.
Marquel, thank you very much for the call out of South Carolina. Keep the faith, if you'll pardon the expression, and take care of yourself. I had a question on my email for evidence. When do you plan on releasing the second part of the history of the Bible? Well, first of all, can you explain what the history of the Bible is, and then if you're going to do a second part for me?
Yeah, I think he's referring, or he or she is referring to A History of God. So that's a book by Karen Armstrong that I read, right out of the gates when I became an atheist. I was just figuring things out, and it really had a profound impact on me. Part two, it's pretty much once a month at most. I have a lot of subscribers that ask me to make videos more frequently if I can, but a lot of people understand that I have a lot on my plate. But yeah, it's pretty much just once a month.
Talk to me about your family. Is it, you guys are still pretty tight, but come on, tell me it doesn't make Thanksgiving a little weird.
Yeah, man, I know it sounds crazy, but it doesn't. Like, I'm still the same person, you know, and that's something I really wanted to emphasize to everyone when I ended up starting to tell people about this. I've been to church still while I was an atheist. You know, I'm like, well, this is what I know, you know, and I actually hope to change the church from the inside. And that'll be something I talk about in my series eventually. But that was something I told people. I've been the same person this whole time. You know, I was an atheist this whole time when you were interacting with me and you thought I was still a Christian, and I'm still the same person. And I really think people recognize that in my family, at least. I haven't had any rifts in my family. When I told my pastor that I was an atheist, the one who I'd been attending his church for 2 years as an atheist, that was definitely a rift. But not with my family, no.
Do any of you or all of you have a pet topic or pet peeve, something that it's a hot button, and whenever it comes up, you're immediately on the 50-yard line, and you're out there in the field fighting the fight? I mean, what rings your bell? What makes you crazy? What lights your fire? Come on, any of you.
Faith.
The thing that, go ahead.
I cannot stand faith. Faith, belief without proof, belief without evidence, just believing for no good reason whatsoever. It drives me up the freaking wall. There's just something about that where I mean, I don't care about scripture. I don't care about dogma. I don't care about any of that stuff. Prove to me your God exists, and then I'll care about his book. You know, when people just believe, they're like, you got to have faith. I'm like, what's the difference between having faith and playing pretend? As far as I can tell, the only difference is that people who are playing pretend know they're doing it.
I heard this yesterday. Prove that God doesn't exist. Do you hear that a lot? Okay.
Oh, yeah. But, you know, I mean, the burden of proof goes to the people that are putting the proposition out there. I mean, if no one ever said to me there is a God, I'd be going through my whole life never thinking about the issue. It would never be relevant to my life. And then they say, oh, by the way, there's this thing you should be aware of. And I'm going, really? Show it to me. But they're like, oh, by the way, you have to disprove everything before you can not believe in it. Okay, how does that work?
The more God doesn't make sense, the more he does make sense. Have you ever heard this one? You may not believe in Jesus, but Jesus believes in you.
Oh, yeah.
Dark Matter, you got a pet peeve, or you have a topic, a subject that really resonates with your heart?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and I can even remember that this was the very first time I ever decided to create a YouTube account and just to reply to comments in, a few years ago. And it's about morality. You know, atheists are immoral, right? That really gets under my skin because I know. People throw things out like, oh, Stalin was an atheist, as if I have anything to do with Stalin. There's crazy people who believe in God and who don't believe in God. And there's going to be crazy people no matter what. And to just label us all with the same brush because you can come up with an example of a crazy atheist, I hate that. I really hate that.
And it's a catch-22 because if you commit a moral act, they say, well, God created morality. Even if you don't accept God, you're still doing something that God instigated back at the dawn of man. It's sort of a lose-lose situation. I mean, they think we're all out there murdering people and eating babies for dinner. Evidence, you got a pet topic you want to talk about? Anything that resonates with you?
Religion is a melting pot of ideas, and there's so much. There's so many philosophical problems with it. Of course, the ones that Bionic Dance and Dark Matter mentioned, I've run into those. Those bother me. There's this list of 300 arguments for God, I think, that Dawkins referenced in his book, in the God Delusion. There's so many ways to think about things in a bad way. So I guess what I tend to try to do is just build up some order in an opposite direction. Just kind of. I guess that's kind of my stance. I'm just picking at religious ideas one thing at a time, and trying to focus on the positive direction out of it. I guess that's kind of my stick.
It's not about religion, don't you? It's about a relationship. It's funny, I notice that people sometimes take the good cop, bad cop thing when it comes to religion, especially when they realize that they are intellectually outmatched. The argument that they have is weak. One person may say, just test Jesus. Just test him. Just go and pray and ask him to reveal and prove himself to you. And I just know in my heart, but he is going to prove himself to you. And then the bad cop is over there going, you realize that at the end of your life, you're going to have to stand up before God and give account for every deed, don't you? So you got one person preaching love and happiness, and you got the other person that's going, look out, you're going to fry. They're going to put you in the oil like a freaking funnel cake, and there ain't going to be no powdered sugar. It's so frustrating. How do you argue with that stuff? Very quickly, let me ask, I had someone named Lewis ask, would you guys ever consider making a video together? I'm like, well, what do you have in mind? I mean, do you ever think about collaborating with other YouTube atheists and free thinkers out there?
Well, I've been in more than a few of Dark Matter's videos, so kind of already happened.
I've always, I'm open to the idea. I've had people talk about collaborations. I've, never actually done anything, but yeah, I'm always open to.
Yeah, Dark Matter's got the networking thing down, man. You're connected more than any of us out there. You got Sonderfoot and everybody else submitting. That's pretty impressive. Maybe sometime in the future there might be a project that we could all collaborate on. That sounds like it might be a lot of fun.
Awesome.
Sure.
I save my best ideas for that. I want to be worthy of. I want to have worthy roles for people.
Yeah.
I just lost that last sentence. Can you say it again for me, real fast, John?
Sure. I try to save my worthy roles for people. I do that because I like to bring attention to other people. So because we're all on the same side, and I want them to be heard. Everyone has good arguments that we can all use. So.
Who inspires you? There are people who go to your YouTube page and they say, I'm so glad you're here. You encourage and inspire me. You three, who inspires you? YouTube related and just, who resonates with you?
The person who's most directly responsible for inspiring me to do what I do is Non-Stamp Collector. When I
Non-Stamp Collector.
I wanted to do what he did.
And he does great work. If those of you who haven't seen Non-Stamp Collector's page, he does have a YouTube channel. You can simply search for it. In fact, I think I did I asked for his permission and did a reference to non-stamp collecting in one of my top 10 creationist arguments videos, because the argument was atheism is a religion, and of course the response is, and not collecting stamps is a hobby. Sure. Bionic Dance, is there somebody out there who inspires you?
I can't think of any one necessarily specific person. I know that when I first started making videos, one of the people that I kind of wanted to emulate just a little bit was Richard the Dick Coughlin, 666, or now 000. He's changed his channel name. But I really liked the way he would just mercilessly attack beliefs and go, this is just dumb, why sugarcoat it? And, that kind of inspired me quite a bit. But there are other people out there as well. Goodness knows, Non-Stamp Collector gave me a shout-out when I was like a complete unknown and got me 500 subscribers in like a day, which scared the hell out of me, let me tell you. When you open up your email site, you see 500 messages, and you're like, uh-oh, did my spam filter break? But no, it was awesome. So there's a lot of folks out there that I could mention.
Evidence, you have someone out there who inspired you.
Yeah, as far as YouTube atheists, there are so many great YouTube atheists out there, and I have a list of them, of some of my favorites. I don't know if they directly influence the content or style of my videos, but I really enjoy them. I think it's really important that they're out there. I'll tell you the YouTuber who inspired me to even get into YouTube, and it was Venom Fang X.
Venom Fang X?
You know what I'm talking about, right? I mean, you know what I'm talking about, right?
Describe Venom Fang X's content for those who are being introduced here.
One word, sophistry. He just horrible butchering of logic and evidence. You know, like he presents himself as someone who knows what he's talking about, and you know he's smarter than these atheists, but he ends up just repeating the same things over and over again. I mean, eventually, that's why I started making videos, and it was like 3 years ago. And eventually I realized, whoa, he doesn't listen to any of these videos. I mean, anyone who's been dealing with him for any period of time knows, you know, duh. And then that's when I kind of branched off to like, well, people don't believe that I used to be a Christian, so maybe I'll make this story to show how I was. But yeah, Venom Fang X is the reason I got into the YouTube video or business. So
they really kind of help us. I mean, you know, the Shock of Gods and the Venom Fam. I mean, those guys, the more content they produce, really, the better it is for the atheist movement. I'm like, you guys just knock yourselves out, man. Let's 3 videos a week. You can just keep it up over there. I have time for one more call, and then if I may, I'd like each of you, if you had any one thing you would like to say to our audience or the YouTube audience, or any subject that you would like to end with, I'll give each of you kind of a closing statement. But very quickly, let me talk to Lucas, who's calling us from Denmark. You're on the Thinking Atheist podcast. Thanks for calling. What's going on?
Hey, actually, I've been just sitting and hearing the show for the moment. I would actually like to question something for the quest today.
Please ask away.
I have been thinking about something. When I see evidence of videos, excuse my bad English, by the way.
You're fine.
When I saw the videos, I have been seeing that, as I also have seen in other atheists, that when they talk about atheism and atheists in common, they see atheists as a group of people. Now, what I don't understand is that actually, in fact, atheist isn't in fact a group, because atheist is just a box in which they have put all the persons who have non-religion inside, which means that atheist is not necessarily a group of people, but just all the people who don't have a group in the case of religion.
Thank you for the question. Let's address that, and that almost speaks to the atheism is just a religion argument, which we hear every day. Let's talk about atheism as a community, as a group thing. I mean, is it, I mean, they say often that getting atheists together is like herding cats. Is it counterproductive? Is it like a religion? What do you guys think?
I think that.
No, go ahead.
I think that it's simply because we're a minority, in America anyway, and so we're naturally going to kind of seek each other out and talk to each other and kind of stick together when we fight this thing, as we've seen women do and black people do in civil rights movements. And, this is kind of like our movement. And I think that as we become successful and in the future when it doesn't matter anymore, we're not going to be thought of as, like a group anymore. It will just be, a type of thing that you are.
Isn't it valid for people of like mind to want to come together, to have a community? Isn't that valid, Bionic Dance?
Well, that's the thing. I mean, atheists really aren't of like mind. We're of like mind on exactly one question. Do you believe in God? The answer is no for atheists. But that's it. I mean, there is no atheist dogma. There's no atheist church. There's no atheist organization. We're just not theists. That's all we are. And I have to have that argument over and over. Believe me, there's so many people out there who insist that to be an atheist, you have to reject God. But atheists not a theist. You are just not someone who believes in God. That's not a unifying force. As far as I'm concerned, the only reason atheists band together is for strength in numbers. Because if we didn't band together, then we'd be run over roughshod by the theists. So, honestly, being an atheist, there's nothing there to unify us. There's really not.
Evidence, you want to weigh in on this subject?
Yeah, and I agree with Bionic Dance on that. It really is just our opinion on one issue, and so yeah, it's about a negative. It's not about a positive. It's about, do you believe in God? No. I do think, though, that within the community, if you form, a population of all atheists, a majority of them probably value scientific method, reason, evidence, ethics, and there are positive things that people who tend towards atheism share that I do think can be unifying, and so I identify as a secular humanist. That's the positive thing that I believe in. I believe in reason, evidence, a scientific method. I believe in ethics. I believe in this life. I believe in, doing the best I can for humanity and helping us reach progress as a society. People call this different things. There's people who call it, skeptics. They call it pluralists. That's Thunderfoot's term. But I think it all tends to come to the same set of principles that we support these secular principles, and that could be unifying.
If I had a room full of people that I knew were wildly diverse in every other area of their lives, politically and culturally, but they all shared my disbelief in God, I would want to be there. I mean, I don't have to agree with everything else that they're, but the fact that they have joined me in a rejection of superstition and embracing science, for me, attracts me. It magnetizes me, it draws me, and it makes me want to connect and meet these people and share what we do have in common. One thing I do miss about no longer being in the church is the sense of community. There's nothing like going up and getting a hug and ask someone knows how your name and how your family is, and you spend time together and you laugh and you share coffee and you do. I mean, the community is a huge part of human interaction. We lose that often when we lose the church. Why wouldn't atheists endorse and embrace and promote a sense of community?
Well, you don't
Anybody?
need religious belief to believe in or to get that sort of thing. I mean, I'm not goth myself, but I hang out with a lot of them, and they take me to the local goth club every now and then, and I get community there. I mean, at least in Seattle, most goths are like, they're geeks who'd rather be scary than nerdy, essentially. So, I mean, a lot of Microsoft employees hang out at this club. I get like a dozen hugs a night when I go to the club. I have most of these people in my Facebook group where we meet up for coffee or drinks or watch a movie together or something. I mean, these are my community. It has nothing to do with my atheism. So I don't see why you need religion to have community or a lack of religion.
I've got 8 minutes left on my show. I'd like each of you, if I could, and I'll start with you, Dark Matter, but put a cap on it for me, and I want you to make sure and slug any website or YouTube page that you have so that those who are just now being introduced to you can find your stuff, can watch your videos, can read your blogs, can be introduced to you, because I think each one of your pages is worth knowing so much more about. Dark Matter, talk to me. Can you kind of put a cap on it for me? If there's any one exclamation point about who you are, why your page exists, and what you would like people to know, let me have it, okay?
Sure. But right now I'm just on YouTube, basically, actively on the internet. That's pretty much where I'm most active is YouTube, and that's just my name, Dark Matter 2525. I'm never expected my channel to amount to anything. I'm really shocked and amazed that it has, and And I'm very thankful that, grateful that people like my stuff. And I just want, I heard an atheist once say, I don't remember who said it, that the worst thing about being an atheist is to feel thankful, to feel grateful, and not have anyone to thank. And I just think that that's so wrong, because I look to my fellow man and woman, and I feel very grateful for them, for the things they do. And, like people that pray right before they eat, I do think about the people that, makes it possible for me to live a comfortable life and have good food and things like that. It's people that did that, not God. And I think that giving all this credit to God, being an entity that I've never seen, I've never interacted with, it's so misplaced, and it's tragic. It's tragic that we can't look to each other and be grateful to each other and try to make our world a better place rather than worrying about what's going to come after we die, which we have absolutely no idea, and all evidence indicates that it will be like a dreamless sleep, nothing. You just won't exist anymore, just like before you were born. And I just want people to appreciate this world, this life, and each other. And I think that the more we can get away from this religion business, the more we can get on with doing that, with making this world a better place.
Dark Matter 2525 on YouTube. Bionic Dance, Kate, do you want to wrap it up for me real fast? What do you got?
Well, the slogan of my channel, the sort of blurb that I end a lot of my videos with is, don't run on automatic. Instead, please think. And if there's one thing I can impress on people, it's do that. Be skeptical. Question everything. Make sure. Find out. Research. All of that stuff. Because if all you do is hear an attractive idea and go, yeah, that sounds right, I'll believe that, well, you could be wrong. And while it's not all that frequent, being wrong can cost you your life, or it can at least cost you a lot of time. Sometimes it can cost you some dignity. So really, if there's anything you can possibly do that will improve your life and make you just a better person to interact with in the world, it's that, is be a critical thinker. Check and make sure.
How do people find you on YouTube and elsewhere?
I'd like to think it's from...
No, I mean, how do they find you logistically? If someone's wanting to be introduced to your page, where do they go?
Oh, well, go to YouTube and type in Bionic Dance, all one word.
And do you have a website on top of that, or just the YouTube page, or is that...
Well, no, I don't actually have a website. I do have a web comic. It's a sci-fi thing called The Adventures of Kinneara Baxter. If you go to KinnearaBaxter.comicgenesis.com, you can check that out. I'm also involved with a couple of local atheist groups. There's there used to be a cable access TV show called Ask an Atheist. Now it's actually a professional AM radio show, and it streams on the internet as well. It's Sundays at 3 Pacific time.
Wonderful. Bionic Dance. Just type it into YouTube, one word. And finally, Chris, evidence. Wrap it up for me. What do you got?
Okay. Well, I guess what my channel is about is trying to empathize with Christians and then show how my ideas changed, me personally as a Christian. And ultimately, the direction of the channel is, as I've been saying throughout the podcast, it's about moving beyond religion, because I really feel personally, this is my personal perspective, I really feel like personally I gave religion a shot. I was in it for 17 years. I tried everything I could not to be an atheist. I fought against it tooth and nail. And from this experience, I am pretty convinced, and I become more convinced the more I give religion a shot, the more that someone gets on my channel and argues with me, and they're like, okay, well, let's see what you got. Oh, this is the 100th time I've heard that, and this is what's wrong with it. I feel like religion is probably not going to survive philosophically, and the internet is probably going to be a large part of its demise. And so my focus will eventually turn on my channel to what now? Religion's gone, so what now? We can spend all day, destroying it, but now where do we go, and what do we do with our lives? And that's where I will be heading with the channel.
The YouTube channel EVID3NC3, essentially the word evidence with the last two E's replaced with the number 3. Dark Matter 2525, Bionic Dance, and Evidence 3. Terrific guests. I mean, each one of you has something unique and important to say. You're great on the radio. You're just a great conversation to have, and I want to personally thank you for the work that you do, because you're making a difference. I mean, the game is changing, and we're part of some amazing movement that's going on out there, and it's humbling and very gratifying. So I just want to say thank you, and thanks for spending 90 minutes out of your Saturday with us on the radio. Appreciate you guys very much.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
All right, check out these folks online. I will have links to each one of their pages in the description box of this podcast. And thank you so much for all the support of all of our YouTube users, the Facebook subscribers, and everyone else on the internet and elsewhere. Have a wonderful week, and thanks for listening to The Thinking Atheist Worldwide.
Follow The Thinking Atheist on Facebook and Twitter. Watch dozens of original videos on the Thinking Atheist YouTube channel. And visit our website for resources, links, contact information, the editor's blog, and more. TheThinkingAtheist.com.